Every January, typically, Chandler Gilbert Community College hosts its high school math competition where students from many high schools around the um, Chandler Gilbert regions come in to compete. And every year there's a raffle. There are typically about 200 students that attend, and let's just suppose that there are 5 different types of calculators to be given out, and that the last one is considered the best one. So the first thing we immediately notice is that the order in which 5 calculators are given out is going to matter, because getting a different calculator is, it's different. And we want to know, in how many ways can the prizes be distributed among the 200 students? Well, what do we mean by prizes? Well, there are 5 calculators, and if you imagine a room full of 200 students, this is 200 students, and now from here we're going to pick out 5 of them, and these 5 people are going to win the calculator. So because it doesn't matter what order they're drawn in, if this person's called first, then he's going to get a different calculator than this gal here, or this gal here, or this guy here, and this guy is going to get the best one. So we want to make sure we account for the fact that order is important. So there are 200 students total. We're going to pick 5 of them to win the calculator, and let's see what that gives us. We're going to do 200 math oops, wrong one. 200 math permutation 5, and we get a relatively large number, which we'll just write down. It's 3.04 E11, which means times 10 to the 11th. And so because this is such a large number, we'll actually store it in our calculator. The way we do that is by just hitting the store button. That takes our answer from the previous line. This little arrow means store it into, and now we'll select where we want to store it. You've got a bunch of different letters here in green. I'm just going to go ahead and hit alpha to get the letter and press math, and that will actually display an A on my screen. So now when I hit enter, it's now stored that number, that result in A. So now anytime I pull up A, it should show up as that number that's stored in there. So that just helps me for calculation purposes to not have to round. Part B, suppose a school has 5 attendees, and how many ways can all 5 students from the school win a calculator? Alright, well, you've got another permutation here because it does matter in which order they win them. And from the group of 5 students, we're going to assume that all 5 are given a calculator. So notice that both these numbers right here are students. Both of these numbers are the number of calculators that are going to be won. And the result, of course, is the number of ways that can be done. So we do 5 math probability permutation 5, and that gives us 120 ways in which that could happen. Many ways that can happen. If you just write down, name a few people and start to look at a couple of different ways in which their names can be called, you'll already see that that number is probably going to be pretty big. In part C, we want to know, what is the probability that all 5 students from the school win a calculator? Well, this is the number of ways all 5 students can win. The total number of things that can happen is this 3.04 times 10 to the 11th. Oh, and one thing that you might want to do if you do the storing of in your calculator is to identify this and say that you've called this is variable A, and that way it just, anytime you go to reference it, you know that that's stored in variable A. And so this number is going to be very, very small because the denominator is so large. So we'll divide that by alpha math to pull up our A, and now it gives us about 3.9 times 10 to the negative 10th. And the reason I didn't round any farther is because if you move this backwards 10 spaces, this is going to be a very, very small number. So small, in fact, that it's relatively 0%.